For the last 31 years, being planned and changed and chopped, and I was genuinely amazed when this guy actually embarked on it. I just hope we won't have a 31-year session tonight. You'll have a condensed version of it. So on that note, I hand over to our Vice Chairman, Steve Yarwood. Enjoy.
Right, well, I've spoken to various people and I don't know actually what people might want to get out of this. So what I think is, if anybody wants to ask any questions about it, because if anybody's considering doing a tour of Europe and they're not quite sure, paperwork, things like that, I could probably help out. The thing is, I'm not really going to be touching on the destinations here. This isn't going to be a cross between Joe Lycett and Judith Chalmers, which you could hear sort of thing. So, it is really about the ride, and that's it. But anyway, before we get started on that, when I worked behind the wire, we always have to start a meeting off with a safety moment. So I thought, no, I should start this off with a safety moment. And here it is. And this is a very good point, that the bike always goes where you look. So just remember that. I've gone on a bit quickly. My riding companion, Pete, had a V85 TT Adventure Guzzi. And he wanted a picture of his bike outside these red gates. Now these red gates are visible on Google Maps. If you go down to...
it's Como, isn't it?
No, Mandala Delario. It's close. It's close to there, yeah. It's in the southern end of the country. And anyway, it didn't happen, but that's a spoiler. Right, anyway. So, one thing, as Bob has already stated, he's known for 31 years. It was actually 40 years. And the reason being I wanted to go to Istanbul was 40 years ago, I had a neighbour who worked for Macmillan Publishing, and he specifically worked on travel guides and maps. And he gave me this, at the time, this new AA map, which I've still got here. And it's called the Through-Route Map of Europe, and it's got all the mileages to various places. And I was looking at this, I love maps. And it's almost missing now, but in this top right-hand corner, the farthest place you could go was Istanbul.
Is that 40-year-old, is it?
This is 40 years old. It's actually 42 years old. It's an 81, this map. And obviously you can see the miles. But anyway, it was because of this map and the farthest place on it, was why I wanted to go to Istanbul. So that's the reason why, for a start. And it came about that I'd been to Scotland in 21 with Pete. We were originally going to go to Knock Hill, but they wouldn't let us have tickets at the end because of COVID. And so we set aside the time, and in the end we did a tour of the Isle of Arran and the Isle of Skye. And if you've never been there, it's fabulous. So get a chance, go to those islands. So he said to me, up for Knock Hill next year? And I said, no. He said, why not? And I said, I want to go to Istanbul. And he said, we're going to have to plan that. I said, yeah. And we did. And we planned and we changed the routes, the directions we were going to take, what we were going to do. But eventually we came up with a plan that we would go, he wanted to do the passes in Switzerland, so we'd go through France into Switzerland, down through Italy, get a picture at the red gates, go on down Brindisi, ferry across to Greece, across the southern bit of northern Greece, which is Thessaloniki and then into Turkey, onto Istanbul. Simple. So that's what we did.
Have you just done this, have you? Have you just done this?
Yeah, September. Sorry, it was September last year.
Right, okay.
So we did plan this, and we went to. So we left from Portsmouth on the ferry to Caen, and then from Caen we rode down to Bonn. You'll have to excuse my pronunciation of these countries and the cities we visited. As soon as we got off the ferry, he started complaining. We had intercoms. He started complaining that his bike was playing that. And that was, he did 5,000 miles of complaining.
What was he riding?
It was this Guzzi V85 TT, the adventure bike. There is pictures of it with the seat off and all sorts of things. But so that was the plan. And then we go through Italy. I want to get a picture in Pisa of, an original. Nobody's ever done this before. He said, "I've got this idea. I'll stand and so you get a picture of it." Who hasn't, I think? So, anyway, but to actually, the reason of Istanbul as well, and on the rocket, and my rocket is called Mercury because its original registration was HG13, HGP, and Pete's always laughed at this rocket because it's big, it's heavy, it doesn't turn very quickly. He's always had sportier bikes and the issues that he had with that thing. So, anyway, but I wanted to get to the Asian side of the Bosphorus because then we'd be in Asia and my bike would change from a rocket to an ICBM. Does anybody know what an ICBM is? Not you. It's an intercontinental British motorcycle. Some people think it's a ballistic missile, but it's a British motorcycle. And then the intention then, once we've done that, would be into Bulgaria, Serbia, across Kosovo, Montenegro, to head for Dubrovnik, up the Adriatic coast, back through Italy, and then back home. Well, Slovenia? Anyway, and back home. But that was the loose plan, but the return trip didn't really matter. It was getting to Turkey and Istanbul because we were planning to meet our wives there. And so we booked the ferry, which was an afternoon crossing from Portsmouth, and a hotel in Portsmouth, in France, in Caen. So half an hour drive to the hotel once we arrived. Because it was late, it was like 10:30, and then the other one was we booked the ferry from Brindisi and then the hotel at the Naidu Peninsula. And everything else really you can do on the afternoon, especially out of season as we were. And believe me, on the continent it was so quiet in September. It was really surprising. There was a beach we were on in Greece, and the guy said, I know it was the 18th of September, and he said, packing up, the season's finished. And that was it. I thought, well, it's lovely, it's great. And he said, no. I said, it's so quiet, and everywhere, there was no issues at all getting accommodation at all. And so again, I think if you were planning something in Europe and you wanted to do it on the hoof, you didn't know where you were really going to go, that's easy enough to do that. Booking.com, in the afternoon we had stopped for fuel and a drink. Where are we going to stay tonight? Where do you think we're going to get to? Let's see if we can find something around that. And that's how we did it. Anyway, go on, because so with regards to planning,
Here he is, look.
here I am, and so bike-wise, obviously I put a new set of tyres on, and I had big issues about my rear tyre, I was expecting this tour to be about 5,000 miles, and I've never got over 4,000 miles out of a rear tyre on that, ever. And sometimes if I've been a bit naughty with it, 3,500 and it's clapped out. But, so, new disc pads, change of fluids for the brakes, engine, oil and filter, new air filter, plugs, rear drive, oil was changed, and coolant. So I literally thought I'd covered everything there. The luggage I had was, you can see they're not very nice looking really, I don't think, but they are the Triumph luggage on the back, the lower panniers. And then 2 roll top bags. One care of Colin, the black one, and the red one care of Bob. So they were very handy because we sort of got a rain. Now then, the suit, look at that, that's beautiful. Gore-Tex, that is absolutely shite. That was over £1,200.
You
And I got my money back.
Did you?
I did, I bought it from the smallest bike shop, and I took it back, and they said, well, I have to send it back to the factory. A week later, they said, they accepted it's faulty, and I got my money back. However, that didn't stop me getting a nasty fungal infection. No, honest.
Oh, that was lovely.
It was wet.
When I was cream on the
Anyway,
Yeah, lovely.
the helmet, that was a Shui GT2 Air with, it was a type of helmet you can actually take out panels and put in a semi-unit, and it fits all inside. You can take out little bits and clip it all in. Brilliant. And that's another thing, on a long journey, as long as if you can talk to, companion, makes all the difference. For a start, if he goes through the lights and turns red, and then he's going to turn right or left or whatever, you say, hang on, don't turn off, wait for me, lights are changing. But the other thing is, it's, you can chat, or,
Which set did you use? Which model? 10S?
No idea. No idea. It was the one that fitted that helmet. The only good thing, my city boots, I've had them a few years now and they are totally waterproof. But I did have the foresight to take a packer-mat type thing that folds up into its own pocket, and some over trousers as well. But they were Revit as well, because that's a Revit Poseidon suit. And of course Poseidon's king of the sea, isn't it? And it felt like I was in it at that time.
Just let all the water through then, didn't it?
It was the trousers.
Was it?
Oh, the trousers. One day I stopped and I had these long motorcycle socks on, and the wet had whipped down the sock to the ankles, and it stopped. But my feet were dry, but it stopped at the ankle, and I pinned these things off, flung them down, because they were just absolutely sodden. We should have worn shorts. At least my legs would have dried quicker.
Yeah, they would have. Where did you encounter all the rain?
The rain was...
Through France?
No, as soon as we left, we met in Basingstoke and it rained.
Oh, yeah.
On the way down. There is a picture, so that was for prep. Obviously we planned it so we're all up and ready and running to go. This is Portsmouth. And a kind official said, why don't you boys park your bikes under that canopy over there? And then go and wait in the waiting room. But by the time we came to load up, the rain had stopped, and there we are. There's Pete in front of me there with his Guzzi. Now then, this is very important, because on the crossing there was a quiz, and we won. And there is, it wasn't a kiddies quiz, I know it looks like it was, but no, it was, yeah, but I haven't got the certificate.
What made you choose the ferry over the tunnel?
Oh, because we were going to do ferry there, tunnel back.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and that's what we did, so we used the shuttle.
Yeah.
But we looked at Originally, we were trying to look at going to Le Havre, but there is no crossing now. And then we were looking at a night crossing, so we'd have a full day, you know, the next day. But that was 2 or 3 times the cost. It was just, so the cheapest crossing was the afternoon, and it was cheaper to cross in the afternoon, get a hotel, cheap hotel, like a French travel lodge it was. But it was clean and it was, yeah, quite the schools, yeah, it was great. And we saved about 50 quid each just by doing that and not. Oh, no, what's that? Nick, help! Oh no, there we go. So anyway, so he's complaining about, oh, this engine, it's fluffy, I'm down on power. That's it.
Standard, isn't it?
Yeah. So this is on our way to Bonn in Burgundy, and we stopped for fuel. He's put away. You can see the filling station sign there. Pushed to the side of the road, and he said, "I'll just look to see if there's any loose connections. Make sure the plugs are in." You know, so he was taking plugs out, replugging them in. Nothing. So off we went, and here we are again. We stopped again because he's convinced it's something underneath that one. I don't know. Yes, it's Italian. However, so when we got into Bonn, he said, "Well, let's." He said, "I've had a look on your phone. There's a motorcycle dealer." So we went round there. He didn't speak English. We didn't speak French. However, what we did get across was he knew a man who could look at his Guzzi, and it actually happened to be on our way the next day in Chalon-sur-Saône. And so we headed there, and this was it. And this is Accelair Motors, and this was the Guzzi side. You had Guzzi, Augusta. I think Ducati was over that side as well. But the opposite side of the road, and it really was a huge Triumph dealer. So, and then along there was a cafe. We were there ages, you know. But given their due, they said, yeah, you know, as soon as a bench is available, because we probably got there about 10 o'clock or something. He said, we'll get up on the bench, we'll put the computer on it and see what codes it comes up with. Well, as it was, it came back. He said, nothing. He says, there's no error codes whatsoever. And he said, it's, we don't know what it is, but we think it's that exhaust system you've put on it. And he said, no, that went on a dyno. The tuner said there was no problem with it. He checked it, and it, you know, the Gallic shrug. Yeah. A little bit of quick, like anglais. Yeah. And off we went. There was no charge, so off we went. And so this is us. This is looking from our chalet that we were in, and we were in something like this, and we were the only ones in it. And that's what I mean about it being out of season. That I've missed a bit actually, because it is important with Switzerland. We got there, I suppose, late because it'd been a long day with us stopping in the morning. We would have made better time, but we were hours at this garage and getting this diagnosis of his whatever it was. When we'd gone out in the evening to find this dealer in Bonn, I said, I didn't see any restaurants or anything around, you know, we were sort of out of town. And I said, unless we're going to ride in the evening, out somewhere, you know, we're going to have to, I said, there's a little there, let's go and get some bread, cheese, ham, wine, you know. So we did. I stuck it in the pannier on the side, and then as we rode back, I said, I didn't see that huge Chinese restaurant over there when we left, and it was easily within walking distance, so I said, no matter. Anyway, following night, we're in Switzerland. The shows us into, says, here's the room's up there. Nice big room, great view. This was the view from the window. and she said, there's a restaurant over there, there's a restaurant over there. So we went down to the one down there, which was a golf club as well. Get there, sorry, it's 8:10. Kitchen closed at 8. So there's no chance. So off we traipse back, go to the other one. Kitchen closed at 8. So I said, I always thought that stuff from Lidl Bloodborne yesterday. So we were okay. But Switzerland, I was talking to a German couple somewhere, and I mentioned we'd been in Switzerland. Switzerland is all about money.
Yeah.
So,
Stolen money.
Right. I've forgotten about sat navs. I took 2 TomTom sat navs. He had a Garmin unit, which we used, and mostly it was good, apart from my TomTom unit filled up with water. And I thought, is there supposed to be a waterproof cover for this? And I spoke to somebody, he said, no. That's it, they're sealed. This
So that's your suit and your TomTom.
yeah. However, the TomTom, I took the bits, left that open for a few days and it dried out. Screwed it back together and it worked. So, good as gold. Anyway, so next morning we get up and it was really cool. It was like 5 degrees and nippy with it. We set off, so we start doing want to do the passes. I was only interested in one pass, and that's the Furka Pass, where James Bond Strasser is, where you get the view of where, I think it's Tilly Masterson tries to shoot Goldfinger and nearly shoots Bond, and then you see the chick with the mustache on it, but this is some of the views. This is from the Furka Pass there, looking there, so there's some great views. And there's James Bond Strasser.
Tilly Masterson.
And I think they probably, because I was looking at it, I thought, no, I'm sure you could see more roads, but they probably had an elevated camera, when they were looking down. But that is it, and it's, and that's what it's named, and everybody was stopping there, so. I should have said as well that there were certain mandatory things you had to take. For France, I think it was a bulb set, even though most of the bulbs are on LEDs now, but they took a bulb set which didn't fit. But we had bulbs, and a warning triangle and a reflective tablet. So depending where you're going to go, and I did see something strange about, I think it was Romania or somewhere like that, and you had to have all sorts of things. It was 2 of one thing. I think it might have been 2 warning triangles and crazy stuff. So
Reflectors on your helmet.
sorry?
Reflectors on your helmet.
And reflectors on your helmet. Yes, and I put those on as well. Yes. That's quite right. So anyway, so we did the Furka Pass. This is this one here, and then I don't know where this is. It's Switzerland somewhere, but we did the Grimsel, the Suston, and the Gotthard, and then after we'd done the Gotthard, that was it, because we had to head south because we needed to get down into Italy because the weekend that was coming up was going to be the Guzzi celebration of the centenary, which should have been the previous year, which was cancelled, and it was going to be the weekend that we were there. And I didn't know anything about it, Pete didn't know, even though he said he did, but it was Bob said, I read this in Old Bike Park, there's a Guzzi celebration coming up, and what's that mean? A Guzzi. There's this Guzzi celebration, and I said, we ought to go to that. And so we said, well, we're going to have to cut back on what we're going to do in Switzerland, because originally it was going to be a couple of days, maybe 3 days in Switzerland. I said, well, you're the man with Guzzi, not me, so I don't give a shit where we go or not. He said, no, we'll go. So we set off then into North Italy, And by the time we crossed the border, now previous to that, just before we crossed the border, it was approaching 30 degrees. That's near it. As the day had gone on, it was beautiful weather by then. And we'd stopped at the services and to strip off really, get some of the clothing off that we had. And I'd pop off into the service station there. It's a big place. Go in there, oh, lovely air conditioning. I walk in, wet toilet, turnstile, right? So go up to it. I haven't got any coins or anything. I had to use my debit card to flash it so I could go in for a pee. And that really, that summed up Switzerland for me. But anyway, so all the while Pete's still moaning, groaning. So, but anyway, we get down to, every time I touch this, it's going to be alright. Come back. Yeah. I've got to be very careful with that cable thing. Yeah, more Switzerland. Right. So we get to, this is Lake Como here, and we were set well back from it. And I want to tuck myself in now. I'm not sure now. No, something's behind, so it's which side we were on. Oh no, we were on the east side of the lake. So yeah, so that is south going down that way. Nice place. Really nice place. In the first evening we were there, Pete came peeling on and we went into the town that was nearby, found a fantastic restaurant, really nice. Next day off we went to Mandello del Ario, and this is the view that I took from a roundabout that said, please do not stand on this roundabout. And this is an artwork of the V8 racer that Gus's made. But in the background here you can see the crowd. I mean, it was mobbed, absolutely rammed people. All different makes of bikes, obviously loads of Gus's, all sorts of strange things we saw there. So we went around where the factory was. The factory gates were open. There were queues going each way. You couldn't see the gates. He had no possibility of getting this picture that he wanted there. None whatsoever. And I said, look, if you want to go in the factory tour or go on the museum that's there as well, I said, you go ahead. I'll sit out here and sun myself. I said, because I don't even know whether you have to book tickets for this. So you could be in the queue and then get there and say, which ticket? No ticket. So he said, no. He said, we'll have a wander around. So we were wandering around and I spotted this. And this is what Pete's bike is, exact same colour, the red frame, the white and yellow, and somebody's got this trailer. And I said, you know what that trailer's for, Pete, don't you? And he says, no, he says, it looks ridiculous. I said, that's just spare parts, mate. That's really? So, he wasn't too pleased about this. And now I'm starting to stress him out because also at this stage we're riding along and I said, I know what's wrong with your bike. He says, well, I said, and this, I've heard of this with Italian engines, I says, it's carbon on the valves. He says, what are you talking about? I said, it's carbon on the valves. I said, I saw this film going back a number of years, Walter Matthau, and it's called A New Leaf. And in it, he's got a Ferrari, and it breaks down every time he drives it. It's always getting towed back to the shop. And when he goes in, they say, carbon on the valves. I said, that's what you got. It's carbon on the valves. It's got to be. And he's really getting pissed off. This is what makes it up. So here we are. We're back after we've been down to the factory, and he's pulled all the bits again. Well, I got cheesed off in the end because I was getting bitten by mosquitoes. And I said, we got it back together. I said, you do whatever you want now. I'm going away from these mosquitoes. And but no, we
Has he still got it?
no. When he got back, he changed his system, funnily enough. And then speaking to the various people, they said, "Oh no, you know, the ECU needs resetting to standard because it will learn the mixture, you know, and gradually it will adjust itself. But now, you know, it's adjusted for this lean mixture, and you put it back, you put the silencer back on, and then it's over rich now, so it wants to, and it'll take time. But you have to reset up anyway. He did all that, and it still goes back. But it was only really at low speeds, you know, so we couldn't. Our plans of going through smaller towns and off the beaten track. He couldn't do it because this thing, it would cut out, and then I could hear a crank, and then clouds of smoke. And then he's complaining, he's saying, "It's fucking," because he would tell him how many miles per gallon he was doing. He said, "This thing's doing less miles than your rocket," which was really cheesing him off for a start, because he was always do 65 to the gallon. What's yours do? And I said, "You know, it's how many miles to the gallon is it doing?" I said, "Well, I reckon I must get near 50 miles now, with, you know, the riding we're doing." But no, he chopped in. He's got a Yamaha Tracer 900 GT now, and so he's passed the problem on. However, well, all I would say is, I don't know why he didn't persevere with this. I'm sure he could have scraped the carbon off the valves. And because the beauty of it is, of course, it's shaft drive. And, you know, if you're doing miles, you don't want to be pissing about the chains, having to take Scott oil or anything like that, you know. But there it is. We'll see what's going to happen with this new bike. Well, it was a shame, really, because it wasted time. So anyway, he's saying, "Oh, you know, I can't keep going on like this. We need to find another dealer." Right, let's have a look. There's a dealer in Florence called Farney, and it's Farney, not Fanny, Motors. So we headed for that the next day. Oh, but on the way, we went past Pisa. And it's the picture. Original. So, yeah, so we changed our plans slightly, and we were heading for Florence, but the digs we got had a hole. Beautiful. And it was really warm. This was nice and warm now. This is it's, you know, it's sort of gradually moving down, and it's hot. Get in there, brilliant. You just lift your head out of the water and the mosquitoes attack you. So it didn't spend long in that pool, unfortunately. But yeah, so this is Farney Motors, and again it was a the morning.
Excuse me, which one of those do you mind? Because everyone else is looking around it. We can hear you over the Steve, we can hear you, so you don't mind.
So the morning that we went to Florence, my bike wouldn't start. It just wouldn't crank. Now the evening before, when we'd gone out, we were trying to find somewhere to eat and have a drink, and it was stop start, and I'd only done a few miles in between, and the battery wasn't the best battery. And in the morning it went But Pete had one of these lithium little tiny crank, no bigger than this, is it? You know, and stuck that on. Off it went. And we got there, and when I restarted from here, it was okay. Anyway, we put it in there, and again, we were hanging around. I went into the dealership and said, "Got any, wouldn't have a battery for a rocket? No, get you one in 2 days." So, no, I'm not going to hang around with it. We'll just keep, if need be, keep jumping it in the morning. That's all it was. It was nothing. And he puts it in there. They say, "No error codes." We think it's an exhaust system. And he's adamant, it's not. And I said, "I know it's not, Pete. I know, mate. It's all right. It's carbon on the valves." And so I kept drilling that into him. I think you might think it is carbon on the valves by this time. But so from here, we kind of changed our plans. So when we leave Florence, we're going to head across to the east coast and then head down that east coast. And then out in the spur that goes out on the hill, and then where there's a national park, round there, and then down to Brindisi. And as you're riding along, and it's mile after mile, you're sort of watching things. And one of the things was, I realised there was an Italian national pastime at place on the roads, and it's called tailgating. And what you've got to do is actually go as fast as you can beyond this thing and stay within about a metre of the bumper in front, right? Now, unfortunately, I said, you know, and the event, the inevitable happened, and we meet a shunt on the road. And it is, somebody's gone right up the arse of somebody else. It's blocked it right in front of a bridge. And there were many bridges that we went, tunnels, many tunnels that we were using. And, but of course on bikes we just weave around all the wreckage, you know, and then we just keep going. But it was so noticeable, and they were going so fast and so close. It is bound to happen. But we get over to so we're on the Adriatic coast, and no. Right, this is when we were back at Farney Motors, I went to the gents there, and this was a mural on the wall that was in there. It was a huge, I haven't got the whole thing there, but it's going back to my safety moment. It's the same. It's Joe Barr team. This is, and it's the like a continental cartoon, and this was the whole side of this wall. You know, it's a huge thing. But I just got this bit because there's a scrambler, a Triumph Scrambler at the bottom. Anyway, moving on. So across the other coast, and this is where we're staying. Fantastic view, and not a lot of money. These places were reasonable, you know. And this is, I think this is Civita Nova Marche. Something. Yeah, it is. Nice place. Yeah, easy to book. We booked it on the afternoon, and
Where's that, Italy?
this is on the Adriatic coast of Italy.
Calabria.
And that was a view in the morning. That was a sunrise from the same hotel, looking out. So we're following the coast down then, and to Torre Santa Sabina, which is, I mean, it's on, we're down here, there, yeah, here it is. Oh. I might have missed one. Yeah, I think I might have missed one.
Well, that halfway up there on the boot, that's Ancona, isn't it?
Well, I'm sure this is the estate here where we stayed. That is on that hill. That's where the national park was there. As we got further south, one of the noticeable things was one of the things that had been said by one of the dealerships was try and stick to E5 90, the highest octane you could get for its bike. And by the time we were getting down south, all you could get was E1095. Wherever we went, you couldn't get anything else. And what they sold was octane booster in the shop. You know? So if you did need that boost with the sports engines on cars or bikes, you were able to do that, or if you were down there in the south. Yeah, that was one of the, and he started suffering then, that bike. I mean, it was, and he saw, and he was just giving me grief, honestly. And I said to him, look, Pete, I'm going to get you to Istanbul if I've got to drag you with a fucking rope. So just shut the fuck up. Suck it up. Said, you would have to come on that piece of shit, wouldn't you? But then try look, I've only had a flat battery. Anyway, so when we this is the national park, Parco where is it? Parque de Nacional de Gargano. This was beautiful around here. We went all round the edge of this. We got to this point in the road and there were just coaches and tourists everywhere on the road. And we said, got to be something to see here. And everybody wanted to see that hole in the rock there. So you can go to Dorset and see that. But it was really warm, very warm. We came, when we left this area, where you see where it comes out here and down and joining this road here, there was a long straight road and there were lay-bys every sort of couple of 100 metres. Every lay-by was piled high with bin bags and trash. And it was like, there was this beauty before, and then we're going down there and there's just trash everywhere, mile after mile of it, which was very disappointing. Anyway, this is, so we've gone on, we've got down to Brindisi, and we'd stayed not far, about a quarter of an hour away the night before, so we were there. And there's a rare shot of Pete's bike, complete, without the seat or everything there. And we got to the ferry port and getting to the booking hall. We've got our tickets already, we just have to go and get a piece of paper and sat down and the air conditioner, that was lovely. And this guy goes, come on, you can load up, see? So, right, okay, let's go. So we get on the bikes, we ride round, and we sit in this queue for 2 hours, right? And I reckon it was just a prank to get us out there. And there was 2 of us, but there was a bit of shade. There was a wall, and we sat in the shade and watched this, but literally everything. There were a few cars, but the majority of it was all heavy trucks. And lots of them had to reverse on because we were watching all this fun. And I said, who's taking in the reverse up there? And they were having to reverse up, and it took an absolute age. But while we sat there, a group of bikes turned up, and it was a group of Italians, and they were off to going across to Greece, and then they were going to Albania for the weekend. And I was talking to this one guy, and he said, where did you come from? And he said, oh, fantastic, and where are you going? Oh, brilliant. He said, and he was telling me about this road in Portugal. And he said, oh, it's Route 66 of Portugal. So it's a very famous road. Okay. And he said, then we went down there, and then we went over to Morocco. He said, and when we got to Africa, we were still in Europe. I was missing something here, this is something that's lost in translation. However, transpires, the road he was talking about in Portugal is the N2, and it is in fact like Route 66. There are 3 roads in the world that traverse the countries. There's one in Argentina, Route 66 in the US, and the N2 in Portugal. And it starts at the top and it finishes at Faro at the bottom. And it is a very famous road. And we might be doing that this year. And then the bit about going to Morocco and still being in Europe is he went to Ceuta, and it's a Spanish enclave. And so you don't even need a passport. They don't need a passport. Not from Spain. If you go over from Spain, you do not need a passport to get to that bit. And there's another one further along as well where there's been a lot of trouble recently. Anyway, so we go over there and talk to him. One of the noticeable things was there was a little guy and he had a GS 1200, you know, the BMW with the what's the Touratech panniers on it, you know. But one of these panniers had condensation on it. And then he opens the lid up and it was full of beer. buys cans of beer, and as soon as we're on board, he's handing this out all to his mates, and then he looks at us and he thinks, no, I'll take the pannier with me. So on it goes. But we were chatting to these guys on there, and by the time we got to the other side, when we were in Greece, and again it was literally yards from the port, the hotel we had chosen. I don't know where we went, but anyway, by the time we got to this hotel, all these Italians were staying at the same place, and there was this real dusty car park out the back, and I'm sure we had checked that we could park near the entrance, and so we had a wander around and spoke to the guy in reception. He said, "Yeah, park outside as long as you're not blocking it." He said, "It's fine." So that's what we did. And there's reception. That's where we parked. So right, and the road was just here. And he said, "Yeah, it'll be fine." There, he said, "There's somebody on all night, and they'll keep an eye on it." But I got to the entire tour, nothing was touched. Ever. Nothing at all. Anyhow, yeah, so then we start the crossing of Greece, and again we're staying at resorts because they were empty. The beaches, and we were out and about, and we'd go to places and we'd be, I would say, they were 10% full. It was just so easy to get accommodation, so easy. Bit misty one morning where this is just before we were about to leave, and this place where we were staying was like an apartment. There was a kitchen, like a living room, there were 2 bedrooms, and huge place, and yeah, reasonably priced. So we continue on, and I see we came past this, and I said to Pete, stop, I want to get a shot of this. He said, "What?" I said, "Those guys beating the trees." And he said, "You're kidding." I said, no, I'm stopping, I'm going back. So I went back, because I thought, well, they're too big for olive trees. And does anybody know what they're harvesting in? Well done, almonds. And that's what it was. They were harvesting almonds. I actually took one from it just to make sure that that's what it was. And that's how they do it. Nets on the ground, just like with the olives, they're shaking the olive trees. And interesting to see that sort of thing, but still being done by hand. And then as we were going across, I think I'm always convinced this is the Thracian Sea that we were crossing. There were lots of little islands, lots of bridges, and as we were going across one, I saw this, and at first sight, I actually stopped later on, but at first sight it appeared there was like a church in the middle of the water with nothing else. But actually, the big one's the monastery, and there is a church behind it. But we went further on, and there was a big entrance, and lots of people there going on, and there was a walkway that went across it, as you can see there. And I guess years ago, perhaps it was you crossed it by boat, but there is a walkway. It's a bit of a tourist attraction there, and if I can find it, I'll tell you what it's called. It's the Holy Monastery of St. Nicholas. Yeah. But moving on, again, another resort that we stayed at, and I think if you look, there's not many, they put a load of sunbeds out, and there's 1 or 2 people sat there. And this was, I think it was this one, where we sort of spoke to the guy, said, "No," he had like a bar on the beach, he said, "No, we're finished, it's just dead, we're going." And that was the final night in Greece, and then it was on to Turkey. And so we couldn't get green cards for Turkey, Kosovo, Montenegro, all these places. Anything that wasn't in the EU, Pete's insurance company and my insurance company would not issue us with green cards. However, I'd seen that you could buy insurance at the border. And this one thing I'd said, you've got to aim for the UMAT building. And that's why I thought I'd add this picture, because it was quite simple to actually do it. It was €20 it cost us for the time we were going to be. I think that's for a month in Turkey. But prior to this, you get to a checkpoint, you've got to show your passport. You go on, we went into the UMAP building, got this, there were queues and queues of people trying to get through. And we got into the queue, then we jumped the queue because we're on bikes, and we saw, hey, all the bikes are jumping the queue, you know, pushing in, getting off the bike, going to the kiosk sort of thing, the hole there, and to the window. And then you had to show, and I think I've written this down again, that you had, it was bike documents, and this is a good point, all originals. Obviously, MOTs and insurance is going to be copies now, prints that you've made, but you've got to have the original V5C. Because later on, there's a tale I'll tell of somebody who didn't do that, and so that was that. Get on to the next one. Yeah, bike documents and passport. And then there's another window you've got to go to. And he wants to see your international driving licence and the bike docs again. Right, okay, so now they've checked the passport twice, they've checked the bike docs twice, they've checked that you've got a driving licence. And I'm looking in the distance and I said to Pete, that's raining over there. You could see it, it's getting grey, you could see it falling in places, and then we just go on and on. So we get through that one, and then put everything away, and then, damn it, like 400 metres away, there's another checkpoint. And he wants to see the bike docs again, see? So we get off, and I know I took notes while I was away, because I always intended to do an article because Colin forced me to. And I'd written down that the ride to Istanbul was brown with rain in places. So it wasn't very inspiring. The road that had the least charm at all. It was other places we were, there was just fields and fields of olive groves and citrus. You could see the fruit on the trees. There were, I don't know how many thousand acres I saw of sunflower, that were waiting to be some of it had been harvested, and they had these, you could see the harvesters that would actually went in and they had like forks that went in, quite a tall machine, and they would do these rows, but they were harvesting the sunflower. So I thought all sunflower oil came from Ukraine. That's why it costs so much now. But no, there's plenty of these things, this stuff about, and we saw lots of it. But anyway, so we get to Istanbul, and the wives were there, and we had a few beers when we got there, and a few more. And then we did a bloody tourist thing on buses and on foot, and we saw the Blue Mosque and the Hagia Sophia and the Topkapi Palace, but the best thing I went to was the Basilica Sistine, where you've got the water stored under the ground. That's brilliant, and I would recommend that for anybody. We did a riverboat evening out, and we did a bus tour all round. Went over to the Asian side by the bridge, but the main thing I wanted to do was to get the rocket over to the Asian side. So what we did midweek, this is because we arrived there on the Sunday. On the Wednesday, we took the bikes out. I was on my bike set that had like 7 miles left in the tank of fuel. So the first thing was getting petrol, and then it meant doing a bit of a loop around the one-way system to get to the nearest filling station. And we got over there by using the tunnel. So I'd been on the bridge, on the bus, in the tunnel on the bike, and then we got the ferry coming back. And this was the view from our hotel in Sultanahmet. And that's the Bosphorus there in the background. And there's the bikes parked outside, downstairs, with our reserved parking area, and that's designated by that red cone. Apparently it's secure as well. So I said, that cone can do, it must have special powers. Yeah. Anyway, shot of the evening, there's the, I think that's the Blue Mosque. I don't know, it didn't really interest me that day. I couldn't wait to get going. Here, this is us on the Asian side, stopped for a drink, and on our way back to the ferry. This is us on the ferry, and I thought the ferry was great views. To me, that's the best way of doing it. That was very good. Because you get, in this shot here, you've got the Blue Mosque, there's Hagia Sophia, and then the palace there. But that's it, I'll say no more. This is us at the border, so we left on Friday and headed for Bulgaria, and this is us waiting at the border. You can see the girls, just loads of queues. But it didn't take us as long to get out, the Turks still were 3 checkpoints to get out of the country. And again, they wanted let's go back. While we were at the hotel in Sultanahmet in Istanbul, when we got back from the ride across the Bosphorus and back, just as we turned up, this guy came up to us and said, "Oh, I'm glad I bumped into you guys." Obviously English, and he said, "Oh, I'm doing a tour over here," and he started going on, and he said, "I made a bit of a gaff though." He said, I didn't bring the original V5C. He said, "I've managed to get in the country, into Turkey," he said, I've got a picture of it on my phone that my wife sent me, and I've got a photocopy." And he said, "The first crossing I went to, they wouldn't let me in." He said, "So I went to another one, and they let me in." He said, "I don't know why." He said, "But I got in." He said, "Now I've got to wait," because he said, "I know I'm going to have difficulty getting out of the country." He said, "My wife's posting me the V5C, so I've got to hang around in Istanbul." But then he was saying he was on a 1200 Tiger, and he was saying that, he said, that, yeah, honestly, he said, I was on some rough roads. There's some rough roads on there. I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, one of these rough roads," he said, "I hit this pothole, the forks bottomed out, then they rebounded, the bike flew up in the air, did one of those, tank slappers, crashed down." He said, "And I just managed to keep it up on the rough." He said, "My heart was coming out of my chest." He said, "So I stopped at the next filling station, service station," he said, "for a cup of coffee and a fag," he said. And he said, and I sat there and I thought, "Oh my God." He said, "So I had this coffee, went to the bike," and he said, "and it wouldn't start." He said, and I took the seat off and I thought, I've broken something in this mirror. So I'm convinced. He said, "I'm checking the cables," and he said, so anyway, he said, so in the end, he said, I rang up the insurer. He said, "Got recovery?" He said, "They could send somebody out there to sort it out." So anyway, he said, so I phoned him up. They said, "Well, we'll probably get somebody with you within the hour." He said, anyway, an hour goes by, nobody turns up. So an hour and a half, he phoned them back. And they said, "Yeah, no, it's on there. It's just, we'll get somebody out as soon as we can." And he said, and I was fed up drinking coffee, so I wandered back to the bike, and he said, and I got back to the bike, and it was the first thing I saw. He said, and the first thing, I'm so embarrassed. He said, but I was so relieved. He said, the kill switch was on. He said, and I flicked the kill switch on, turned the key, pressed the button, wolf straight on. He said, "Oh, thank you, God." He said, "Thank you, God." And he said, and do you know what he said? That insurance company never got in touch with me. And it was either Footman James or Carol Nash. So I remember it was a double-barreled name. Anyway, so we get to get through the border here and jump off into Bulgaria. And I think we were heading for Plovdiv, or however you say it. That's how it's spelled, Plovdiv. Anyway, we get there, and Pete says, my my sat-nav suddenly hissy fit. He said, you know, we're just going around in circles here, and he says, it keeps saying go down there, or go down there, and it just brings me back. And I said, oh, okay. And mine couldn't even find the address on mine, because I hadn't updated it, I guess, I don't know. Anyway, so he said, look, you stay here, I'm going to go see if I can get this sat-nav to sort itself out, and stay where you are. So I'm there, and a couple came out of this building, and I said, oh, excuse me, you don't speak English, do you? He said, yeah. And I said, oh, he said, you wouldn't know where so-and-so hotel is? He said, yes, nowhere here, near here. I said, no, we'd come to that conclusion as well. So he said, stay where you are. He said, I'll be back in a moment. He went and got his car, came back, he said, follow me. He said, it's down by the rowing lake. I said, we went past there. I said, I've never seen the long lake by the road. And he said, yeah, sort of a no-through road there. And he said, it's down there. Brilliant guy, you know. And it's one of the things, you know, these, you never know, do you? You know, we could have been there buggering around, but just, you speak English, and he was good enough to show us. And the hotel was a nice hotel, but God, had the worst plumbing I've ever witnessed. It was just, Pete went in for a shower. He said, don't put too much soap on. Because, there was a dribble coming out of this thing. It was awful. But the rest of it was okay. So we get off in the morning, and now, that night we were talking about where we were going to head for. When we get to Serbia, what we're going to do. Because we'd seen that the month before in August, there'd been blockades on the road to Kosovo, and we would have been heading through Kosovo. And it said that all this was over, but we knew that there was lots of problems politically with Kosovo, with Serbia, because Kosovo wants to be a state on its own, but Serbia says, no, you're part of Serbia. So I guess we could have diverted round, but it would have meant that then Montenegro, and we didn't have insurance, we probably would have got it at the border, but anyway. And Pete had been on about Kutna Hora, and we'd spoken about Kutna Hora as well, where the Sednet ossuary is and the Church of Bones. So we said, let's just head north then, we ain't got to matter to say, we'll do that. So, right, into Serbia, and we'll keep going north. And so, this is the view from the hotel we were in, and that is the other side of those trees there is where the rowing lake was. And then we got into Serbia, and this was Jagodina we were staying, and this is just, it was parking at the side of the road. But, you can't see it on this car, but do you see the BMW there with no number plate? They took the number plates off, and they were quickly detachable, these number plates. So, whether the license is on the plates and and the plates are stolen because, you can put them on your car and then you've got tax or whatever, I've no idea. We had a wander out in the evening, went into a bar, and it was a real shock because people were smoking in there. And I thought, this is, you think, well, remember this, what this is like, the smell of smoke, and get up in the morning, and your clothes stinking of the smoke. But we went off and, again, found a nice restaurant. We were talking to the waiter, and he spoke perfect English. And I said to him, where did you learn to speak English? Because I've got a bit of a pet theory on this. My pet theory is that all these people in Europe, they speak good English because of Hollywood movies. And that's where they learn. He said, well, it started off, he said, like watching the films, on the movies on TV. He said, and then I had the opportunity to do English, and his English was perfect. Very, maybe you could say an mid-Atlantic accent, but anyway. But he was really, really interesting guy. Anyway, so this night we're staying here. About 2:30 in the morning, a car alarm's going off and wakes me up. And then dogs start barking. And it was like that scene in 101 Dalmatians, you could hear the dogs. It was going around the town, all these dogs barking. I couldn't get to sleep, and I thought, oh Christ, it's 2:30, the clubs have shut, they chucked them out, and they're on the rob on the way home. So those bikes are out there at the side of the road, and but got up in the morning, they'd been touched. So all's good. So then we'd gone on from where were we? Serbia. So then it was on to Hungary, and a shortcut. We went through a little bit of Croatia, and the thing I remember as we left Serbia, we were going to bypass Belgrade, and there was this long hill we were going up, and I looked over to the right hand side, and the ground dropped away, and it was like there was a new town that had been built, or a huge estate, and they all had the same terracotta tiled roofs, and it was all looked new. And then as we crested the hill, you could see the city of Belgrade, and the one feature that stuck out immediately, it was like 3 skyscrapers in like a three-pointed star. And I thought, it really stuck out, so I had to look that up, and that's called the Eastern City Gate. I haven't got any pictures because I was riding at the time. And then there was like the orbital road that goes around Belgrade. And when we got around the other side, there was a building that would not have been out of place in London because it looked like a bottle upside down planted in the ground. And that's called the Kula Building. And they're really notable sites, those were. And of all the cities I think we went through and around, that was. But I think it was because we were up so high and looking down on it. This is just a shot. I think this is when we were staying in Hungary. We'd been out around the bars and things, had something to eat and come back. And then there was that tower that was lit up, which I hadn't noticed before, but that was the hotel just there where we were. Following morning, it's pissing down. I mean, it's chucking it down. And so we're heading for Kutna-Hora. By the end of the day, the weather was like this, but when we got there, I was dripping. And that was the day with the wet socks down at the ankles, and these, Pete's laugh. He said, I'm really dry. So, he said, I might have a little leak on a boot. He said, I'm not sure about that. I said, well, I can get wet all over as long as my feet are dry. I don't care. I can go all day. But so we went out in the evening, and this is St Barbara's Cathedral in Kutna-Hora in the Czech Republic, and I believe they're flying buttresses, aren't they? Fabulous, but unfortunately got there 10 minutes, it closed. But we were going to be there the next day anyway because we were going to go down to the Sedlec Ossuary. And we said, we'll come back. And so we went around the town, and we were going past, we were sort of in the town centre there, and another shot of the cathedral inside, and then out over the town there. And I said, look, there was like an arcade of shops that went off. I said, see this sign? And it was a sign on this, it was a blackboard, and it was the sign of this head. This thing here. So I said, and it's got 1700 to 0200. I said, it's got to be a bar. Let's go in. He said, no. I said, no, come on, let's have a look. I said, and so we got to the end of, it took us to the end of this arcade, and it was like, turned down these steps, and it was all rough cast. So if I could make out the wall here, it was like a vaulted roof in this place with the bar there. That's the barman, that's his top hat that he was wearing. But it was real gothic, but it was really deep underground, and then it went off, you had these tunnels and things that went off into various ways. And in some respects it reminded me of the ale house in Reading. Where you got these little tracks through and then little snugs, as it were, off. And the chains on there was chains on the wall getting down. There was no banister, it was all chains. And but that was great bar, that was. And then we're out in the evening. I said that I'd been to Prague previously, and one of the places I'd been to eat in the evening, I said it was a refectory style. I said just long tables. You just grabbed a seat where you could. You'd be sitting with somebody. But the beauty of it was you could be speaking to somebody. And in this occasion, this is how we were in this place. Just the same. And you had the long table there, but these ones were 6s or 8s, I think it was. And there was a German couple that we were speaking to. And Pete took a bit of a shine to the waitress in this one place. But anyway, next day, up in the morning, raining again. Receptionist says, why don't you boys get the train? It's only just around the corner there, rather than walk the 2.5 kilometres to the Sedlec. And so, yeah, so that's what we did. We got the train there. It was the return journey for the 2.5 kilometres for the two of us was 85p. So, but anyway, this is the outside of the church. Now you cannot take pictures inside the church, right? However, there's loads on the internet, like this and this. Stock, that's the stock room there. This chandelier. So I see all this, and you're in there, and at first thought, I thought, is this going to be like, what's the word, ghastly or horrific? But it's not. I think everything is so old, it's more like an archaeological dig, you've come across, and all these. And there's 40,000 bodies worth of skeletons in this place. But they've made chandeliers, there's candelabra, the coat of arms, all these strange things. And they come out now and said to Pete, and it's like, why? My only question is why? All these things. But this is a UNESCO heritage site. Anyway, so we'd gone off, we actually got into St Barbara's afterwards. But there was another cathedral next to the Sedlec Ossuary, and which was, it's the Holy Mother of Assumption or something like that. I got that. I just know. I've lost it. It's here somewhere. It's St Barbara's. Our Lady of Assumption. Now, the inside of these cathedrals was just fabulous. I mean, yeah, they were huge. And I thought, how have they built all these things? Then it transpired, this is the interior of one of them. Now, I'm no left footer, right? Pete is. And it needs, I can appreciate the architecture, the artworks, and everything there, but what was spent on it. Then it transpired that Sedlec, in Kutna Hora, that region, it was all monastery land, had silver mines on it. And in the 14th, 15th century, they were knocking out 5 tons of silver a year, which was a third of what Europe produced. And it all got spent on cathedrals, by the looks of things. It was, this is the little train that we use to get from Sedlec back to Kutna Hora, and this is back into Barbara's, I think, this one there. Anyway, we come through the town, we dropped into this blues cafe, and this cafe, you could get tea, coffees in there, but they sold LPs and they had music going all the time, but you could actually, it was just like a music shop you went in, old style, because it was all, 33s and LPs in there. But you could buy whatever was there, and it was, somewhere nice. And then we walked past this chocolate museum that was there as well. We didn't go in there. Now then, the following day, so we were finished there, so now we're going to head, due to head west, because we're on the home lake now, and we're heading into Germany. And I've been looking in the guidebook, and I said, I want to go to Bamberg. And he's like, why Bamberg? And I said, because they do this famous beer called Rauch beer, or smoked beer. So I said, yeah, I'm up for that. So we headed for Bamberg, and it also said that, again, it was one of the more unspoiled, off the touristy trail sort of thing. And a really strange place in actual fact, because gondolier? In a gondola? This is in the river when... Anyway, we wandered on around the town and we found, because we went into one bar and said, oh, did you rugby? Oh no, you've got to go further into the old city sort of thing. And then we wander along. There's all these people hanging around outside this place. This has got to be where you can get rugby. So we went in, it was absolutely packed inside. And it was, so, but down the end, there was like a little hatch like this, only like one of those, with one guy behind there. So I wander on down there. Do you speak English? Yes. I said, I want rank beer. He said, right. He said, what you got to do, don't get a table. If the table's got a reserve sign on it, it'll say a time. Now, if that time's not up, you can sit there. But please vacate it. This is real German, isn't it? You know, please vacate it by the stated time, and you're welcome to stay there. And then the waitress will come round, take your order, you'll get your rank beer. So that's what we did. And, well, I had a few. So, you know, what can I say? But rank beer, I would say, is a bit like porter, not Guinness. It's more porter sort of thing. But the smokiness of the, you know, and I think it's the way the malt is almost like overcooked, isn't it? Sort of overcooked in its. But yeah, it was nice and well worth the stop. But Barenberg was very nice. Going on from there, we're heading to a place called Gelnhausen, and it wasn't very far. I think we were only going like 100 miles that day, and it was purely to meet a friend that I'd met previously before through Frank, friend of his, Ely, and I just stopped to take a picture of this house that appeared to be in the middle of the road. But as you can see, the weather was fantastic. We had a short day. The forecast for the next day was terrible. Anyway, we started off in fog on that day, and it loads of wind turbines, and it was really eerie to see them sort of appear out of the fog, just swirling around. And then this is Gelnhausen. Now I don't think I can increase this. Oh, that's a can. Because Ely took us out for a walk in the evening, and he said, "Can you see those buildings in the distance?" And he said, "That's Frankfurt, and that's 40 kilometres away." So fantastic view up there, lovely evening. Next day, when we got up, it was pissing down again. And I've put my Pack-A-Mac on underneath my jacket, so I've got a waterproof underneath my waterproof jacket. I've got my waterproofs over my waterproof trousers, as well. And I still got soaked. Absolutely drenched, but my feet were dry. And we ended up in Namur in Belgium, and we cut through Luxembourg because it was cheaper fuel. So we'd gone into Luxembourg, cheap fuel, topped up with fuel, and then made our way up there. And we were staying in this really high up. This is the River Meuse. I checked this, and I think the Mure's that way. So we were out of the town, but yeah, fantastic views from up there. And we, as soon I remember getting there to this place, right, mid-afternoon, and I am dripping in reception. I'm talking about dripping, puddles on the floor, and then we go and where are we? We're in the gods, So it's up 3 flights of stairs, dragging the bags up, you're soaking wet, taking stuff off, but then it's still raining, so you need your jacket on. So when you go outside to get all this in, I swear, as soon as we got in, it stopped raining, sun came out. It was like this. And so we had a nice evening there, but forecast again for the next day wasn't good. And when we left in the morning for Calais, and this is I think this is the town hall in Calais, I took a picture. Nice evening again, got soaked on the way there. Worst place we stayed, it was a right dive. Stayed in Calais, but it was the last night, and we didn't really care, But, and then next day, got the shuttle, and that was a bit unnerving. I don't know if you've ever done that. I had the bike on the side stand, And I thought, oh, you know, should I be with it? Because it was, oh, you know, it's going like this. I thought that the crossing that we did from Brindisi to Igoumenitsa was smoother than, I swear, was smoother than that train. And they really lashed those bikes down. But, you know, in the end, there were three of us. There was a guy on a GS 1200, funnily enough, you know, you need lots of them. And he was literally touring around Europe. He had said his time was up, but he'd been there, his total time was up, because he'd been out of the UK for 180 days, but he'd gone out of Europe, and I think he'd gone to Turkey, because you can only have 90 days in one, and then 180 days in a year, thanks to Brexit. So if you're thinking of touring, doing long distance, make sure you're not there for longer than 90 days in Europe. But yeah, I mean, shuttle's brilliant. 35 minutes, bang, superb. And then we're back. So then we get to like the epilogue of all this. So yeah, I've already told you, spoil it that. Pete never did fix that guzzy, he just chopped it into that Yamaha. I got the money back on that suit. But we really got bitten by the bug for this. And so this year we're planning to go to Morocco. And again to go into the continental, so it's Africa this time. And to do the N2 in Portugal first. So the plan is it'll be France, Spain, northern Spain, into Portugal, down across. And I was watching, again, you won't be able to get, I know you won't get a green card insurance from Morocco, but I was watching Itchy Boots, and I don't know if anybody else is watching Itchy Boots. Yeah. Well, Itchy Boots was in Morocco, and she actually showed where she went to get insurance. On, I think it's might be in the first episode, either the first or the second episode. So, yeah, but I think what it's done is, I've never done anything, yeah, Scotland, been to France a few times, but it was easier than you think, you know. We didn't have a lot of trouble, we didn't even have a puncture, and I'm always getting punctures. But not even a puncture. Pete had a load of hassle with that guzzy, but I had a flat battery one day and it never let me down again. One day it was a bit iffy, but...
What was the total miles you covered?
4,735.
Rear tyre?
The rear tyre, half worn.
Really? That all?
Honestly, I couldn't believe it. I kept checking it. I said, this tyre's not wearing. And that tyre had been... Frank, how old was that tyre? I had a brand new... It was new old stock, but it was like 5 years old. And I thought, I'm going to burn it out in a month. Well, it's not still on there, you know.
Not stop starting or something. Just...
Yeah. Now, see, some people might say, some people might say, it's not harsh acceleration and harsh braking, which could be or might not be my normal riding style. But yeah, we were just rolling along most of the time. But you know, do you know what? I don't even think it's half worn. I reckon if there was I will replace the tyre before we go to Morocco. But, no. So thank you for your attention. If anybody's interested in anything, I've got some books and things I've brought along. There's the map, of course, which I think I've done. I'm sure there's another stop. But that is the route, for sure, that we took. Yeah.
How many miles do you do on average per day?
We had some long days at the beginning. This first leg, when we went from Caen to Bonn, that was probably the longest day because we were desperate to get to Switzerland because Pete wanted to do these passes and then get on to northern Italy for the Guzzi celebrations. But generally, we'd see how the day would go, because so there was never any strict plan if we hadn't booked anything. And so we went to mid-afternoon, 3 o'clock or something, to say, you know, we need to stop and book accommodation. How far did we think we'd get? How far have we come? So what I would say is this was probably about 350 miles. And then, like I say, this was Bamberg to Gelnhausen, just outside Frankfurt, and it was 100 miles, you know, it was a short day.
No night travel, no evening or night travel.
No. Well, only when we were in France the first night and Greece the first night, when we get to the hotel. But that was real short. And then, to be honest, it was so late in the evening, the roads were deserted. You know, really, sort of next to nothing. I would say that when we arrived in Greece, the landing time was 11 o'clock in the evening, right? And I looked at my watch and it's 9 o'clock. And I thought, well, I know it was a really smooth crossing, but surely. Anyway, it was because we'd lost an hour, right, on that bit, which we'd gained back when we went into